game.
I don't think there's such thing as a game being too easy when it is as complex as StarCraft 2. I mean, if it would be too easy, why are you the person who says it? Why aren't you the best player in the world? And obviously, it is still very, very complex. And every game I play StarCraft, I struggle and I feel like I could use one-handed APM more that I could make use of. And to be honest, I don't think in the end of StarCraft 1 it was going into the right direction because let's be honest, pure macro game is not really as exciting.
No, it's not.
And if macro is being easier, you are getting a lot more room for the player to actually pull off amazing macro moves. And right now it's still underwhelmingly underused, and there's so much you can do. People are complaining that units are clustering too close together, and that Storm, or for that matter, any area of effect damage is too powerful. But you could actually micro those units and spread them again. And I think there are a lot of new challenges existing in StarCraft 2 that we did not have in StarCraft 2 in that form.
No, I would agree. I mean, I'm certainly not a very good player myself. I play very casually, but do interviews more seriously. So I cannot speak from a high level perspective, but I think that the new mechanics that Blizzard implemented in terms of macro and increasing the diversity, such as mule drops or scans for Terran, and of course Zerg's Queen inject larva and other functionalities, and chrono boosting with Protoss. I think as it was intended that it does work to keep you occupied macro wise. And it makes it more interesting to watch as well. I know that many purists out there that does not share this point of view, quite aggressively do not share it. But personally, I see StarCraft 2 as a very functional game, and glad to hear that you think it has potential for the future as well. Because it truly seems like with StarCraft 2, many new possibilities are coming at us in terms of pro gaming and being involved in the scene as a spectator or broadcaster. There are so many new initiatives popping up on YouTube every day, people who are devoting themselves. These are exciting times indeed. I think the hopes have come true more than the fears. However, that was a bit of a rant there, but it's something I like to bring up with every guest on the show, whether or not they see the glasses half full or half empty when it comes to comparison between StarCraft 1 and Brood War. But building on to that, infrastructure-wise, what needs to happen in terms of team management, the creation of leagues? We have the GOM Star League now announced. That is, of course, the very biggest initiative that we talked about. But in order for the scene to grow and become versatile and everlasting, what needs to happen in terms of organization and investment and all that business and industry jibber jabber? What needs to be done? Do you think?
Well, I'm not very proficient in business matters and stuff, but I think we are going in a pretty good direction. For example, the Into the Extreme Masters, I think, is going to be broadcasted via Eurosport. I'm not sure.
Ah.
But as long as we manage to reach mainstream media as television and print magazines and maybe even local and maybe not so local newspapers, we are on a very good track. Also, it would be nice to see some more team houses maybe to develop in Europe. I think that's a pretty big deal in Korea. It basically is one of the biggest differences and probably one of the reasons why the Koreans are playing so incredibly well is that they have the possibility to train together. But not only the training is important, but if you have a team house where everybody is living together, you are giving the team a real identity, and you could create blogs about their living together, and you have a lot of possibilities to actually make the players more public figures and not only a nickname on the internet, but maybe real persons that their followers can relate to.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, many will be aware of this, but it's probably a strange thing to many others as well. In South Korea, where Starcraft Brood War has been a multi-million-dollar television phenomenon for years, there are actually not just the actual leagues that are being aired and broadcasted. It's actually a whole throng of other side shows, little game shows and reality TV shows that all circle around the actual professional play of Starcraft as such. So it has given a whole industry has sprawled up that is complementary to the actual professional play, and it's quite exciting, and it gives employment opportunities to thousands of people that are not actual gamers, and it's really a rich potential that's lying there. I might have missed something in terms of this, but I know that perhaps the strongest initiative in this direction yet is in America, hosted by the team of Gosu Coaching, LC Gamer, In Control, Machine, and others who are organizing pro gamer boot camps, which I mentioned previously on the show, somewhere in the desert of Arizona, conveniently enough. You can go and just breathe and live StarCraft, and they will train you and coach you into becoming a better player. And I think that's a very interesting initiative, and hopefully similar things will happen elsewhere and in Europe, because so much more can happen if people live together and can collaborate. So hopefully that will come into fruition when Liquid gets closer to doing something like that. I hope we can get someone on the show to talk about that as well. But yeah, these are exciting times. I cannot hide the geek chills at all anymore.
I don't think anybody of us can. It's just overwhelming.
It is indeed. It is indeed. And before we start rounding this interview off, because I think we've talked about quite a few things today already, just like to ask you a little bit about looking back at the beta and before then grinding on Icy Cup in Brood War, and you played Supreme Commander, a whole different title as well, for a long time. And what are your memorable moments, fights, matches, and highlights, so to speak, of your previous time before you went pro? How would you summarize or remember the process, as it were?